So in this video, we're going to consider how much money is enough money. Now, a lot of people, they hear the term all the time, six-figure salary, or you need 100K or more to live a good life. But is that really enough? Is that too little? What's really going on with those people who are making those high salaries? Because typically, if you're making a salary of six figures or more, you need to be... it depends on your living area. You could be living in New York, in Manhattan, getting paid 150K a year. A lot of that is going to be gone through tax, through maybe your student loan, and also through the high living cost of the rent you'd probably be paying, unless you're a multimillionaire paying for you're paying off the mortgage on your own apartment. Typically, you'd be renting and paying, anywhere 2, 3, 4 grand a month in terms of your rental costs. So there's lots of things to consider. Let's discuss in this video, how much money is enough money, and start with this clip.
One of the most ridiculous takes I've seen on TikTok in such a long time that we obviously know is completely unrealistic. As you could tell, because she turned her comments off. It really just goes to show how out of touch so many people are with how much things actually cost nowadays.
Now, just to give some context here, what she's going to explain is that, we might think, a high six-figure salary is actually earning a lot of money, right? But we don't take into account, as I say, those high living cost areas where that money does get drained by tax, rent, and, high food costs, high cost of living. And also student loans, because to get those top jobs in those top companies, you need to have a lot of debt, right, through your long times of many years of studying at university. And she's going to explain it quite well here, and how it's easy to judge people who are making those higher salaries as maybe they should have an easy life, why they're complaining about not having enough money. But typically, a lot of these people are kind of still stuck in the middle class. They're not making, they're not multi-millionaires as we might perceive them as being.
Especially depending on where you live. Our parents' generation taught us that $100,000 is a lot of money. That's what you should be striving for. That's how much you should be making if you have a really good job. I grew up thinking that if I was a lawyer, if I was a doctor, I would be making six figures and I would be so happy living this cushy, amazing life. When that is completely the farthest thing from the truth in today's economy. We want people that are making minimum wage to believe that, these 1% people that are making $100,000. I hate to break it to you, that's not the 1%. The 1% is making $100,000 every time they scratch their fucking ass. Okay? Not only do you start by taking taxes out of that $120,000, which she didn't do, you also have to be realistic about how people's standard of living is, okay? Nobody wants to live every single day eating ramen, which is what you're going to do if you're only spending $200 a month on groceries. That's insanity. I spend $200 hands down every 2 weeks, and that's me not even buying that much food. That's $400 a month just spending on groceries. Not to mention that I pay in rent $2,000, but people could be paying way more than that. They could be living down in the Loop in Chicago and San Francisco and San Diego and New York City and even smaller towns and still having to pay $3,000-$4,000 a month in rent. On top of that, we have the student loan crisis, where if you didn't have any money growing up, then you were going to have to take out student loans to be able to pay for college. So you could be hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, which can be $1,000, $2,000 payment that you're supposed to be making every single month just for student loans. And if you took out student loans, I guarantee you that you also are drowning in credit card debt, because that was the only way you could afford to feed yourself when you were in college, is to just open these predatory credit cards from these lenders. And so now you have thousands of dollars in credit card debt plus interest that you also have to be paying off every month. Living paycheck to paycheck doesn't mean that you're broke and homeless and destitute. It just means that you spend majority of your paycheck before you get your next paycheck. And unfortunately, we're living in an economy where almost everyone is in that situation.
So just to summarize what she's explaining here, right? Many people are in some type of financial difficulty in the West right now. As I say, if she's living in a high cost of living area, she's mentioning $2,000 each month on rent. That's quite a lot of money. even if she's making a six-figure salary. And then she has her student loan, she has her, basic living costs and high tax and things like that. Also, what you realize from people like this, and I've noticed this in the finance industry too, you might have people earning high salaries, but all their time is basically dedicated to work. It's dedicated to work or getting ready for work or worried about the perception of people at work or having to spend evenings socializing with co-workers, not having any time for hobbies, any time for like independent thought, to think outside the box of maybe having a side income or having, alternative, just ways of living, right? And it's really a trap, because the trap in the West right now, apart from the inflation, is also usury. Is USURY is essentially high cost of living in the terms of debt. You have high interest rates through your student loan, through your mortgages, through other living expenses. And the very large proportion of the finance industry itself is based on usury, which is essentially high interest rates when it comes to borrowing. And now these type of things have been normalized. The central bank printing money out of thin air and creating inflation, this has been normalized. And it results in people basically becoming slaves. They don't have time, they don't have freedom, they don't have time for hobbies. And it's like if they have a hobby, it's like something they maybe do 1 hour a week. It's kind of weird. It's really kind of drained people's energy. And that's why you need to think outside the box. If you want to make a lot of money, you need to think, am I making a lot of money but sacrificing my freedom? That's really what you got to think. You want to maximize your wealth. I would say you need to maximize three things: your health, your wealth, and your freedom, right? And I might discuss this in other videos, but the way you structure your day should kind of be loosely based around that, right? So your number one priority is your health, because there's no point having money and not having your health. So maybe you work out in the morning and do some physical activity, then you spend time focused on your wealth, which would be focused on your day job, whatever that is. And in the evenings, you focus on your freedom, right? So your health, wealth, and freedom. And what's freedom? For you, it could be focusing on your side income, focus on your hustle, however you want to call it. Or that freedom could be spending time with your family, your friends, playing video games, whatever you want. And I think those three things make a solid day, a solid week, a solid life: your health, your wealth, and your freedom. But if you're doing everything, you're sacrificing your health for your wealth, you're maybe not focusing on, working out regularly. Sometimes I've done that in my time trying to climb the corporate ladder. It's not really worth it in the end. It's not really going to pay off. You should focus on your health. Other things you should consider would be, to what extent are you, as I say, your wealth for your freedom? Now, a good point I'd make there is that, okay, maybe you want to focus on making money on your side income or other income sources, or getting a remote job, because that will give you more freedom. Even if it does kind of sacrifice your wealth, you might have to take maybe not the highest paying job so you can work remotely and work from home, but that bit of extra time and energy, you can focus on your health, focus on other things. The other thing I would mention is that, if you're working a job that's going to pay you maybe, let's just, for example, say $200,000, or would you rather take a job that gives you $150,000 so you can work remotely, focus on your side business, develop another income, and then live abroad where you have even better, higher living quality for lower cost? So there's so many nuances you should think, and you're always juggling these three things, as I say: health, wealth, and freedom. If you focus on health, wealth, and freedom, it'll make it a lot easier for you to your life, rather than just focusing on climbing the corporate ladder and it's kind of going nowhere and leading to, as I say, people who are unhappy. Like, she's coming across quite unhappy even though she has a six-figure salary, and it leads to people kind of having mental health issues and other health issues in relation to being unhappy.
I want to comment.
Here's how I live paycheck to paycheck while making $150K a year.
So in this short clip, it's just someone who's making $150K a year, but they're blowing all the money and they're living a life of privilege, and they don't realize this is going to backfire, because unless they have a parent or a wealthy family or wealthy partner in a relationship, they're not going to be able to sustain this lifestyle. She's making $156,000. I think she's living in New York or some high living cost area, blowing a lot of money on Uber, eat food outside and things like that. There's nothing wrong with living a good life. If you want to spend money, it's up to you, right? But think about the long term. Lots of these people who have these high paying jobs, these jobs are kind of meaningless, doing meaningless work, right? And a lot of people don't realize that they're replaceable. They're just another cog in the machine that can be replaced by someone else, right? So, if you're blowing a lot of money and you're working a corporate job and you think you're going to climb the corporate ladder forever and you're going to be there forever, you're kind of deluding yourself.
I Uber Black everywhere, and that's $760 a month. I tried to go on as many dates as possible, but splitting a bill is still expensive and $1K a month. Having a younger sister is super expensive, especially if you pay for her tuition. I also randomly got a surfboard for $1K. I DoorDash food all the time, that's $650 a month. I own a spoiled cat, that's $340 a month. I lease a Tesla for $470 and bought this random set of knives for $800 on Amazon. Self-care is around $150.
So, I mean, there's many things we can take from here. She has many high living costs and she's making those high six-figure salaries, but she's not really managing her time. And something I'd recommend to everyone out there is really think carefully about your time and how you maximize your time to maximize a high quality of life. Because she's spending all this money going out, going to these places, blowing a lot of money. But if she invested a lot of this money, it would give her longer term freedom. She could invest and buy her own property. She could focus on her not only investments, focus on her health, balance her time effectively. Like, lots of hobbies you can have don't have to be super expensive like she's doing right now, blowing her money on things. This is someone who, unless she finds a rich boyfriend, to be honest, is not going to work out for her. The job market's going to become unstable. Companies, even though they do prioritize these type of women, these feminists, these woke culture types who will blow money and always dependent on their job, and their life revolves around kind of a social life which is loosely based around the office environment. These type of people are not going to make it over the long term, particularly with the economy and social dynamics going the way they are. They think there's going to be a safety net that's going to catch them, but the safety net is not going to catch them. And that's a very important lesson that I hope you take from this video. Firstly, living cost, general inflation is something you could take into account when you are selecting your job. When you're selecting what type of work you want, is it going to allow you to maximize your freedom, or just become a dumb person like this woman and be a worker consumer, work, consume, work, consume? You don't want to end up like this, because this type of people, they're going to have the rug pulled from up under them before you know it. And they kind of already are, socially and financially. So these are the type of people we might be laughing at in a couple of years who haven't prepared for where things are heading. And don't make these irresponsible life decisions. And I'm someone who can help you. I've worked at some of these companies I've mentioned here, Goldman's, HSBC, Morgan Stanley, and so on. I've been around all different types of people from different financial backgrounds, some privileged people like we saw in the last video, people who are really gonna not do too well in the future. And I can give you some good life advice so you don't get caught up just climbing the corporate ladder, or just get caught up in all sorts of nonsense, career and finance advice you see online. I have a link in the description if you want to speak with me. We can talk about your personal situation in a bit more detail, and I'll provide some more targeted advice. But thanks for listening. There are 2 recommended videos on your screen right now, and I'll see you next time.